My brother's son poured soda on my nursing graduation dress and said, "Now you look like the help." My brother's son poured an entire cup of root beer down the front of my white graduation dress. The room went silent for half a second. Then he grinned, pointed at the brown stains spreading across my chest and said, "Now you look like the help, Aunt Emma." The whole table laughed. My mother laughed first. I stood there in the back room of a rented church hall in Louisville, Kentucky, holding a plastic fork and a paper plate with a slice of my own graduation cake on it. My nursing pin still sparkled on my chest, half covered in soda. My shoes stuck slightly to the floor. My nephew Carter kept laughing so hard his face turned red. He was 12, old enough to know cruelty when adults rewarded it. My brother Ryan leaned back in his chair, clapping like his son had just told the funniest joke in the world. My sister Vanessa covered her mouth pretending to be shocked, but I could see her smile through her fingers. My father looked down at his phone. My mother Patricia waved one hand in the air as if she was brushing away a fly. "Oh, Emma," she said, still laughing, "don't make that face. It's just root beer. Just root beer. Just a joke. Just family." Those three excuses had followed me my entire life. The church hall smelled like barbecue buttercream frosting and old carpet. Gold and white balloons floated near the ceiling. A banner that said, "Congratulations." Emma hung crookedly over the dessert table, though no one had bothered to tape the left side back up after it fell. My cake sat beside a stack of disposable cups and a tray of cold chicken wings. Someone had already cut into it before I arrived, even though my mother promised they would wait for me. The blue icing spelled out, "Congrats, Nurse Emma," but half the word nurse was dragged through with someone's thumb. Vanessa's engagement cupcakes, though, had their own table. Perfect pink frosting. Little silver rings on top. A framed photo of her and her fiancé sitting beside them. My graduation party had quietly become Vanessa's engagement celebration before the first guest even took off their coat. That was how it always happened. My milestones became background noise. Vanessa's became events. Ryan's mistakes became emergencies. Mine became selfishness. My mother stood and walked toward me with a napkin still smiling too brightly. "Here, dab it before it stains." I stared at her. "Make Carter apologize," I said quietly. The room went still again, but this time the silence was different. Heavy. Warning. Ryan's smile disappeared. "Are you serious?" "Yes," I said. He poured soda on me and insulted me. "He's a kid," Ryan snapped. "He's 12. My mother's eyes narrowed. That was the look she gave me whenever I forgot my assigned role. The calm one. The reliable one. The one who swallowed everything so nobody else had to be uncomfortable. "Emma," she said softly, which was always worse than shouting, "This is not the time to embarrass your brother." I looked around the room. At my father still pretending the screen in his hand was more important than his daughter standing there humiliated. At Ryan, who had borrowed money from me so many times, he stopped calling it borrowing. At Vanessa, whose bridal deposit I had paid last month because Mom said she was too overwhelmed to handle another disappointment. At my mother, who had spent the entire afternoon telling people Vanessa's wedding colors, but had not once asked about my hospital placement. And suddenly I felt something inside me go quiet. Not break. Not explode. Just go quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when your heart finally stops begging people to love you properly. I set the paper plate down on the nearest table. The cake slid sideways, icing smearing across the edge. "I'm going home," I said. My mother's face hardened. "Don't you dare walk out and ruin this day." I almost laughed. This day. My day. But I was too tired to argue with people who had already rewritten the story before I opened my mouth. I picked up my purse, walked past the balloons, past the cupcake table, past the cousins, whispering behind plastic cups, and headed for the exit. Behind me, Carter called out, "Buy Nurse soda." Ryan laughed again. This time no one even pretended to stop him. Outside, the humid Kentucky evening wrapped around me like a wet blanket. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead. My dress clung cold and sticky to my skin. I sat in my car with both hands on the steering wheel and waited for the tears. They didn't come. For 32 years, I had cried in bathrooms, in parked cars, in laundry rooms, in the supply closet at work. I had cried quietly because loud pain made my family uncomfortable. But that night, nothing came. Only a strange, clean emptiness. I drove back to my apartment in Lexington with the windows cracked open, letting the night air cut through the smell of soda and frosting. My phone buzzed 3 times before I reached the highway. I didn't look until I got home. The first message was from Mom. "You humiliated this family tonight. We are done protecting you from your own bitterness. Do not contact us again." A second later, Vanessa reacted with a heart. Then Ryan replied icily. I stood in my tiny kitchen under the yellow light above the stove, still wearing the stained dress they had laughed at, and read the messages again. "Do not contact us again." Finally, I should have felt abandoned. Instead, I felt my pulse slow, because on the small table beside my laptop sat a blue folder labeled Family Payments. I had made it 2 years earlier after my friend Marisol told me gently but firmly that love did not usually require spreadsheets. I opened the folder. The first page was my parents' property tax payment schedule. I had been covering it for 3 years because Mom said Dad's hours had been cut, and they were 1 bad month away from losing the house. The second page was Ryan's food truck insurance, paid from my checking account every month because he said his barbecue business was about to take off. The third page was Vanessa's bridal venue deposit, then her makeup artist, then her photographer's second installment. The fourth page made my stomach turn cold. A business line of credit for Ryan's food truck. My name was listed as guarantor. I remembered signing the original paperwork 2 years ago after Mom cried in my apartment and said Ryan would lose everything without me. I had agreed to guarantee 1 year. 1 year only. But the renewal date on the document was 6 months ago. I had never signed a renewal. My fingers went numb. I pulled up the scanned copy. There it was. My name. My signature. Except it wasn't my signature. The E in Emma curled wrong. The last name was too neat. I always pressed hard enough that the ink thickened near the end of Bennett, but this line floated lightly across the page, like someone had practiced it slowly. My family had not just used me, they had forged me. I sat down. For a long moment, the apartment was completely still except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint traffic outside my window. Then I opened my banking app. I canceled every automatic payment that did not belong to me. Property taxes, insurance, venue installment, Ryan's business account transfer. Then I removed Vanessa as an authorized user from my credit card. I froze my credit. I changed every password. I downloaded every receipt, every text message, every email where Mom had written things like, "You're the responsible one and family helps," without keeping score. "And Ryan can't know I asked you to pay this." Finally, I replied to the group chat. 1 sentence. "You told me not to contact you, so I'm removing myself from every bill account and signature you attached to me." I hit send. For the first time all night I smiled, not because I wanted revenge, because I had finally understood something. They never feared losing me. They feared losing access to me. By 8 the next morning, my phone was unusable. 40 missed calls. Then 60. Then more than I cared to count. Mom left voicemails that began with rage and ended in sobbing. Ryan texted in all caps. "What did you do to my account? You can't just cancel insurance. My truck is parked until this is fixed. You're killing my business." Vanessa sent a photo of herself crying in a salon chair. "The venue just called me. They said the payment failed. How could you do this before my wedding?" I stared at the screen while coffee brewed behind me. Not one of them mentioned the root beer. Not one mentioned Carter. Not one said I'm sorry. At 9:15, I walked into the downtown office of Whitaker and Park Legal Services, wearing black slacks, a gray sweater, and the calmest expression I owned. Ms. Naomi Park met me in a small conference room with frosted glass walls and a bowl of peppermints on the table. She was in her early 50s with silver threaded through her dark hair and eyes sharp enough to cut through excuses. I gave her the folder. She read in silence for nearly 20 minutes. Every so often, her eyebrows lifted. When she reached the credit line renewal, she stopped. "Did you sign this?" Number. "Did you authorize anyone to sign on your behalf?" Number. "Did anyone tell you this account had been renewed under your guarantee?" Number. She leaned back slowly. "Emma." She said, "This is not a family disagreement. This is financial fraud." The word fraud landed in the room like a dropped glass. For a second, I heard my mother's voice in my head. "Don't be dramatic. Don't embarrass your brother. Family handles things privately." Ms. Park slid a legal pad toward herself and began writing. "We are going to do 3 things today. First, we file a fraud affidavit with the lender. Second, we send notice to Ryan Bennett's business that you dispute the guarantee renewal. Third, we send a cease and desist letter regarding any attempt to pressure or defame you. My hands were folded in my lap. They looked steady, though I could feel the tremor in my wrists. What happens to them, I asked. That depends on what they did, she said, and what they are willing to admit. I looked down at the fake signature again. For years I had worried about what would happen to my family if I stopped saving them. I had never asked what was happening to me while I did. Do it, I said. Ms. Park nodded once. Then she picked up her pen. By noon, the lender had frozen Ryan's business line pending investigation. By 3, Vanessa's venue had emailed her directly for payment. By 5, my parents discovered the property tax account no longer pulled from my bank. At 6:12, Mom sent a message that said, "You have destroyed this family over a child's joke." I typed back, "No. You used a child's joke to hide what adults were doing." Then I blocked her. For 2 days, the silence felt almost holy. I went to work at St. Mark's Medical Center. I checked charts, changed dressings, helped an elderly man walk to the bathroom after surgery, and listened to a woman cry because her daughter had finally called after 3 months. Pain made sense at the hospital. There were wounds, there were causes, there were treatments. Family pain was harder because people kept calling the knife love. On the 3rd day during my lunch break, my supervisor, Hannah, found me in the staff room, staring at a yogurt I had forgotten to open. "You okay?" she asked. I almost said yes. Then I remembered I was tired of lying for other people's comfort. "No," I said, "but I'm handling it." She sat across from me. "Anything I need to know for work? My family may try to contact me here." Her expression changed immediately. Not pity. Professional concern. "Do you want them allowed back?" "Number." "Then they won't be." I blinked at her. It sounded so simple when someone said it without guilt attached. At 4:40 that afternoon, hospital security called the nurses' station. "There are 3 people in the main lobby asking for Emma Bennett." My stomach dropped. Through the glass doors near reception, I saw them. Mom in her navy church dress faced tight with fury. Ryan in a baseball cap pacing like a man waiting to punch through a wall. Vanessa wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, one hand pressed dramatically to her chest. Carter wasn't with them. For that at least I was grateful. Hannah stepped beside me. "Do you want to speak with them?" "Number." She nodded and turned to security. "Escort them out." But my mother saw me before they could move. "There she is," she shouted loud enough that patients turned in their chairs. "Emma Marie Bennett. You come here right now." Ryan pointed at me. "You froze my business account." Vanessa's voice cracked. "My wedding is in 6 months. 6 months, Emma. Do you know how selfish you have to be to do this now?" People stared. The old shame rose in my throat, hot and familiar. For 1 second, I was 17 again, standing in the kitchen while Mom told me to give Ryan the money I had saved for college applications because he needed it more. Then Hannah stepped forward. "This is a hospital," she said. "You need to lower your voices or leave." Mom looked offended. "I'm her mother." Hannah didn't blink. "Then behave like one." The words were so sharp, so clean that Ryan stopped pacing. My mother's face flushed dark red. Security moved in gently but firmly. Mom tried to step around them. "She's punishing us," she said to anyone who would listen. "After everything we sacrificed for her, she is trying to ruin her own brother." I walked closer, but not close enough for her to touch me. My voice came out calm. "I didn't ruin Ryan's business. I stopped letting him use my name without my permission." Ryan's face changed, just slightly, but I saw it. Fear. Vanessa pulled off her sunglasses. "What is that supposed to mean?" I looked at my brother. "Ask Ryan who signed the renewal." Mom's mouth opened. Ryan said nothing. That silence answered more than any confession could. Security escorted them out under the fluorescent lobby lights, while my mother shouted that I would regret this, that blood mattered, that one day I would need family and find myself alone. But I already knew what alone felt like. It felt like every birthday where they forgot to call until they needed money. It felt like eating dinner by myself after 12-hour shifts, while Mom posted photos of Vanessa's bridal shower. It felt like standing in a stained graduation dress while everyone laughed. This new silence was different. This silence had a lock on the door. That evening, the Facebook post went up. My mother posted a photo of herself and Ryan standing beside his food truck, both looking solemn. The caption read, "Some children grow up and forget who loved them first. My daughter Emma has chosen greed and bitterness over family. She has stolen support from her parents, damaged her brother's livelihood, and tried to ruin her sister's wedding. Pray for us." By midnight, the comments had multiplied. "Shameful. After all Patricia did for those kids, some nurses think they're better than everyone. Then my Aunt Carol commented, "Didn't Emma pay your taxes last year?" The comment disappeared within 5 minutes. I took screenshots, all of it. Then I emailed them to Ms. Park. Her reply came the next morning. "Do not engage publicly. We will handle it." 2 hours later, my mother received the cease and desist letter. By evening, the post was gone. Ryan called from a new number. I almost didn't answer. Then I did, but I didn't speak. For several seconds, I heard only breathing. Then he said, "You really went to a lawyer?" "Yes. Over paperwork. Over a forged signature." He cursed under his breath. "You don't understand what this could do to me." I looked out the window at the hospital parking lot, where rain tapped softly against rows of cars. There it was, the family anthem. What about me? What about my future? What about what your boundaries cost us? I said, "Ryan, did you sign my name?" Silence. "Did you?" More silence. Then quietly, bitterly, "Mom said you'd never actually care." My eyes closed. Not because I was surprised, because a part of me had hoped stupidly that at least one person would deny it. "She was wrong," I said. Ryan's voice hardened. "You're going to send your own brother to jail." "No," I said. "You made decisions. I'm just done absorbing the consequences." I hung up. 2 weeks passed. The lender removed my name from the disputed renewal while they investigated. Ryan's truck stayed parked until he found another insurer and another guarantor, which, according to my cousin, he couldn't. Vanessa's venue required a replacement payment, and when no one stepped in, they moved her date to a cheaper winter slot. My parents did not lose their house. They just had to pay their own taxes. From the way my mother acted, you would have thought I had burned it down. The strangest part was how peaceful my life became once their emergencies stopped arriving at my door. My paycheck lasted longer. My apartment felt bigger. I bought myself new scrubs that actually fit. I replaced the cracked coffee table I had kept for 6 years because every spare dollar used to go somewhere else. I enrolled in a critical care certification course I had postponed twice to help Vanessa. One Saturday morning, Marisol came over with bagels and a small white box. Inside was a silver necklace shaped like a tiny lock. "For your new era," she said. I laughed for the first time in weeks. A real laugh. Not the polite one I used at family dinners when someone insulted me, and everyone waited to see if I would ruin the mood. Months passed. Ryan eventually reopened his food truck under a smaller permit. Vanessa got married in a community center instead of the vineyard she wanted. My parents paid their property taxes in 3 installments and told everyone I had forced them into hardship. I let them talk. The truth had already done its work. Then, almost a year after the graduation party, an envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper. A child's handwriting covered the page. "Aunt Emma, I'm sorry I poured soda on you. Dad said it was funny, but it wasn't. Grandma said you ruined everything, but Mom said grown-ups did stuff wrong too. I hope you're okay. Carter." I sat on the edge of my bed and read it 3 times. That was the first apology anyone in my family had given me. It came from the child they had taught to disrespect me. I did not call Ryan. I did not call Mom. I did not reopen the door. But I bought a small card with a picture of a dog wearing sunglasses on the front, because Carter had always liked dogs. Inside I wrote, "Thank you for apologizing. That was brave. I hope you grow up to be kinder than the people who taught you that joke." I mailed it the next morning. 2 days later, Mom texted from a number I hadn't blocked yet. "So you can answer a child, but not your own mother." I looked at the message. Once it would have pulled me apart. Now it just looked small. I blocked the number. That evening, I worked the night shift. Around 3 a.m., the hospital settled into that strange quiet. Only nurses know machines beeping softly, wheels whispering down hallways, someone coughing behind a curtain, someone praying in a chair. An elderly patient named Mrs. Alvarez reached for my hand while I adjusted her blanket. "You have gentle hands," she said. I smiled. "Thank you. Someone raised you well." For a second the words stung. Then I realized something. Maybe they had not raised me well. Maybe I had raised myself in the spaces where they failed. Maybe kindness was not something I inherited. Maybe it was something I protected. When my shift ended, I stepped outside into the pale blue morning. The sun was just beginning to rise over Lexington, turning the hospital windows gold. My car sat in the employee lot, ordinary and waiting. My phone was silent. For years, silence had meant punishment. Now it meant peace. I drove home with the windows down, the cool air brushing my face. On my dresser, My nursing pin rested in a small velvet box. I had cleaned the soda from it the night everything changed, but if I looked closely, I could still see a faint mark near the edge. I used to hate that mark. Now I kept it there on purpose, not as a reminder of humiliation, as proof of the exact moment I stopped mistaking sacrifice for love. My family thought they cut me off that night. They never understood. They had only cut the last string holding me to a life where I was useful but never valued. And for the first time, I belonged to no one but myself. If you have ever been called selfish for finally choosing peace, remember this. People who benefit from your silence will always call your boundaries betrayal. Let them, then walk away anyway.